a lot of even our administrative work. So we thought that it would be a good time to kind of do a little education on some of the stuff we've learned here at the AIDS Education and Training Center. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm the Regional Partner Director. We, during this time at the AETC, have shifted a lot of our work to making sure that our providers and our systems and our communities have information that they need related to their services in light of COVID-19, as well as information about coronavirus and COVID-19 itself. Just a reminder for anyone who's never joined our webinars before, we here at the AETC provide free technical assistance and capacity building. During this time, we are also allowed to support agencies and organizations in thinking through how their Ryan White programs or their HIV prevention programs are working during the stay-at-home orders here in New Jersey, and even beyond that. So if you or your organization are finding that you're lacking tools or resources or capacity, or you just need some help thinking through how this is going to look, please feel free to reach out to the AETC. We've been helping some sites think through some of this stuff, and we're more than happy to work with any of you all as you continue to provide these services. Second, I started this way with a lot of others, and I just have to keep saying it, an enormous amount of gratitude for all of you who have continued to provide these services, even in what is catastrophic situations in our communities. I think it's a real testament to the work you do and the systems that you've built, as well as the rapid adaptation that you have made to this situation. So thank you from me as a person with HIV, from the rest of our community. We value it, we appreciate it, and we're thinking about all of you through all of this. With that, what I'd like to do now is pass the reins over to Mariana. Mariana is with our central office at the AIDS Education and Training Center. She's our educational technologist. She does a lot of the support for us when it comes to figuring out how to use all these super cool tools so that we're not sitting there with blank screens and that everything works right. So she's been a real godsend for us at the AETC, helping us support our webinars. And so we thought it would be really great if we brought Mariana here to New Jersey to give you guys an introduction to Zoom. As we move through it, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put the question in the chat room. If it's immediately relevant to sort of what she's talking about, we'll go ahead and ask it. If it can wait, we'll probably wait till a break point and let her kind of finish that thought. As we move through this, if you have lingering questions following the webinar, or you'd like a little bit more one-on-one attention, please let us know. We can do one-on-one consults where we can kind of zoom in with you and kind of go through the system and help troubleshoot or answer any questions that you may have specific to the type of program or services you're trying to run using this platform. So with that, I will pass it off to Mariana, who can tell us anything else about herself she'd like to share with us, and then help us all understand our new favorite tool, Zoom.
Thanks, Adam. Okay, so just before I start, I wanted to let people know that I live right by Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. So if you hear sirens in the background, I apologize in advance. It is a constant thing that's happening, as you can all imagine. So today we're just going to go over like an intro to Zoom, sort of talk about some of the basic things you need to know in terms of setting up a meeting, helpful tips for how to run a meeting. So if you have a Zoom account and you want to sort of follow along, I'm going to be showing screenshots of things. Also at the end, if you want me to specifically show you anything, I can go ahead and share my screen of my Zoom account and I can go through and share anything that you have a specific question about if it wasn't clear from the screenshots. So here is my disclosure, just in case people are wondering. So the first thing I wanted to go over is how to schedule a Zoom meeting. So when you log into your Zoom account, you will see a menu bar on the left-hand side of your screen, and you want to navigate to this little meetings section right here that's highlighted in pink. And then you'll see something that says schedule a new meeting. And you can just click that. And when you get there, you'll see this giant form, and you just sort of fill it out accordingly. You don't have to choose all of the options here, but it's just sort of good to familiarize yourself with it. I'll sort of go through, this is where you can select a meeting password, and I'll talk about privacy settings a little bit later. You can have registration here, you know, just sort of take a look and see what you want to fill out accordingly. Nothing is technically required, I don't think, aside from like the title and the date and time. Everything else is up to you. So you fill it out here. Something that we have been doing for larger meetings and meetings in general is enabling a waiting room. This has been really helpful, and basically what this does is when people are logging into your meeting, they will be put into like this little room basically, and they'll see a message that says, the meeting host will let you in shortly. And that way, if you as the host have, you know, a presenter who's going to be talking, or you want to just sort of make sure everybody is set up before all of these attendees start showing up, then they can be placed into this little waiting room, and then you can just let people in one by one. It's also a really good way to make sure that everybody who's logging in is actually supposed to be there. So in terms of, you know, Zoom bombing and people hacking Zoom meetings, if you see somebody in that waiting room that you know you don't recognize, or you know shouldn't be there, then you can remove them, or you don't have to let them in at all. So just make sure you don't forget about people in the waiting room, as Adam said. There's a really good feature actually with the waiting room where you can, there's a button that says admit all. So if you don't want to sit there and be clicking like admit for every single person, and you know that everyone's supposed to be there, then you can just hit admit all and it'll let everybody else in. However, if more people show up later, you'll have to let those people in again. So it just admits everybody who's like waiting at that given moment. Does that make sense to people? Am I talking too fast? I've been told sometimes that I talk too fast. No. Okay. Cool. So once you have made your selections, you hit save, and you'll see something that looks like this. It's a join URL. This is what you want to share with people so that they know how to access the meeting and how to join when it's time. If they click this link before it's time and you haven't started the meeting, then they'll just see a little message that says, the host has not started the meeting. So, you know, it's not a big deal if you give it to them in advance. You should give it to them in advance so that they know what to expect and how to access the meeting ahead of time. There is this little thing that says copy invitation to the right of that. That basically generates like an automatic text that you can share with people with information. In my opinion, it gives a little bit too much information. So you can edit that down accordingly, or you can use it if you feel like it's helpful. The thing about that is that it lists a bunch of phone numbers, and normally at the ATC, we try to, as much as possible, discourage people from joining by phone, just because with Zoom, you can join with your computer. You don't need a phone line. You can join with audio and video, and we like to see people's faces. It makes it a little bit more human. So just as a rule of thumb, we try to discourage the phone, but we of course understand that some people maybe don't feel comfortable on video, or they don't have a good, you know, audio connection on their computer. So those options are there for people if they need them. And there are also lists of phone numbers like for every single country known to man. So anybody anywhere can join by phone regardless of where they are. They'll have a specific phone number there that you can provide for them. So, and there's a siren. So if you need registration, that is something that you can do. So for example, if there's like certain information that you want to collect from people before they join the meeting, you can definitely do that. All you have to do is when you're scheduling this meeting, you would click this registration required button here, this little checkbox. And then automatically what that does is it'll generate a form where it asks for their first name, last name, and email. If there are additional questions that you want to ask people, you can customize the questions as well and add whatever fields you need to. I don't have a screenshot for that, but if people are interested in me showing them that, I can. So just let me know. Should I stop and wait? Do people want to see how to do that? Anybody? No? Okay. But just know that that's an option. You can edit the registration on any meeting that you've set that for and create questions there. If you do the registration, then you'll get a registration URL instead of a join URL. So basically what that means is you'll send this URL to people, and then they'll be directed to the registration form. And then once they've filled out the registration form, they'll be sent a link to the meeting itself. So that way, you know, people have to go through that extra step. This is what I was talking about earlier. If you want to hit this copy invitation button on the side, you'll see something that looks like this. There's even more text at the bottom of this that you're not seeing, but basically it lists a bunch of dial-in numbers that you can use if that's something that you think will be helpful for people. But yeah, it generates this text for you, and you can edit it accordingly however you'd like. So actually, I'm not gonna go through this. I just realized this is, everybody has a personal meeting room that you can use for sort of like non-official events, but given the current state of Zoom privacy, I don't think this is a good idea anymore, but it is still there for you if you want to use it for whatever. But this won't track any data. It won't give you any information about that particular meeting. It's sort of like if you need a very quick, you know, oh my God, I don't have time to schedule a meeting and I need to quickly talk to somebody, you can use this, but it won't, it's not the most privacy friendly thing in the world. So this is something that's super, super important. There are two different types of settings in Zoom. One is the settings for the meeting that you're scheduling at that given moment. And the other is meeting settings for like your overall meetings, and they will apply to all meetings that you have moving forward. So when you're scheduling a particular meeting and you see the, like what I just showed you and all of those meeting options, if you select any of those, they'll only apply to that particular meeting that you're scheduling, and they won't apply to any other ones. If you go into your menu bar on the left-hand side and you select settings, that little green circle that you see here, and you make any changes there, those will apply to all meetings moving forward. So, this is something that I definitely encourage people to explore, because you want to, there's just certain things that you want to apply to all your meetings and you don't want to have to keep, you know, changing them every single time. So you can certainly navigate to your settings bar, go to meeting, and there's a million different settings there that you can explore. One of the most important ones that we always talk about is having a co-host. This allows for you to set somebody as a co-host, and it gives them more privileges than just a regular meeting attendee. And that way they can help you, you know, mute people if need be. They can sort of just help you be, not have to worry about the technical stuff if you're the one who's giving a presentation. And they basically have all of the same privileges as you as the host. So you just want to make sure that this is turned on in your overall meeting settings, and then you'll have the ability to select somebody as a co-host during any meeting that you have. To do that, it's super simple. Once the meeting starts, you sort of just hover over that person's name in the participant list, and you'll see an option that says make co-host. We always tell people that it's strongly recommended that they have a co-host for all formal meetings. That way, you know, you as if you're the one who's giving a presentation, you don't have to worry about like, oh my God, am I monitoring the chat? Are people muted? You know, you have to focus on your presentation, so someone else should be sort of taking care of those back end things. Another thing that we have been talking about is breakout rooms. This is a really cool feature in Zoom. If you have a meeting where you think you're gonna need to do group work, then you can do that in Zoom. They have the ability to do that. You can break people up into different groups, and they'll just be in their own little sort of rooms talking privately. And that's something that you as the host can manage and create, and people can do group work virtually. It's really cool. It can get a little crazy. We recently did one with 200 students and 18 breakout rooms with the University of Puerto Rico. That was a little bit crazy, but you know, if you have something on a much smaller scale, it's like not very difficult at all to manage. And again, I can show you how to do this if you guys are interested at the end. The cool thing with breakout rooms is you can either automatically separate people. So if you just know that you want like 3 rooms with 2 people in each room or whatever, you can set that, and Zoom will like just automatically separate people regardless of who they are into the number of rooms that you want. Or you can manually select. So if you know that, like, okay, I want Adam and Greg in one room and I want, you know, whoever in another room, you can manually select who goes into each room. So it's super cool. Zoom is a very diverse platform, so there's like a million things that you can do. I know it sounds overwhelming and scary, but the more you use it, the easier it gets, and you discover like all sorts of super cool stuff. So once you're ready to start your meeting, it seems like it's not a big deal, but we've had this come up a number of times where people think that if you're the host, you can just like click on the link and the meeting starts. That is not the way to start a meeting if you are the host. Because what happens if you do that is you just sort of log into the meeting as a participant and then you don't have any of your host privileges, which is a big problem because then you can't control anything that you want to control. So the way to start a meeting, you log in, you navigate to your meetings tab again, and then you hit this little start button to the right of the meeting that you would like to start. This is the only way to start a meeting. Again, if you just click a meeting link that you've shared with people, you're just going to be joining as a participant. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear and people sort of understood. Any questions at this point? That was a lot. No. Okay.
Yeah, one question I had, Mariana. So like, for example, you could be doing like a support group type engagement, and then you could like break out and sort of, if somebody needed to individually speak about something, if you had like co-facilitators, you could like move that person out into a breakout room, have whatever conversation you needed to have, and then bring them back into the group. So you could almost virtually still be able to have that space if somebody needed a moment to talk about something separate from the group. Would that be like, could you just on the fly make a breakout room like that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can on the fly make a breakout room for sure. And you can also move people around in breakout rooms. So like if you accidentally put somebody in the wrong room, you can take them out and put them back in the main room or move them to another room. I actually have a couple of videos that I recorded showing how to do this. So I can show them to people if they would like.
Yeah, that would be great. Is it possible for us to put those videos up on our Basecamp? Can that
I have a question.
Probably. I can definitely share them.
Great, thanks so much. And I see Jerry has a question.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, I guess, relevant to security. If someone jumps into your meeting that you're having, what are some of the things they can access? Are you saying they can access all your files? Like, what are the security risks?
So there aren't any files unless you're sharing files in the chat. They would just be like meeting with you the way that you're in this meeting with us right now. And like I said, I'm gonna go through some security stuff at the end, but basically what you wanna do if somebody just hacks into your Zoom meeting is end the meeting immediately and then, you know, reschedule it with people for a later date. But there aren't really files that they would be able to access unless you're sharing files in your chat with people.
Thank you.
No problem.
And there's another question too. After folks are in a breakout room, how do they return to the large meeting?
They have the option to leave the breakout room, and if they hit that button, they'll be just back in the regular, like, main room.
Great. So I've got some requests. Mariana, how quickly would you be able to show us how a breakout room works?
Pretty quickly. I can just play the video that I have for you guys.
Cool. I think that would be great. I got some questions from folks in the chat asking if they could kind of see how this works.
Okay. Let me pull that up quickly. Do people specifically want to see moving people or just in general? I guess I can show you both. They're not that long. Just
yeah, I would say start with the in general one.
Okay. So here we go. You're going to see another Zoom meeting. It's going to be a little like trippy, but it's a video. So let's see. Just a second. Okay. Here we go. A quick training on how to create breakout rooms from your Zoom meeting. So the first thing I like to do when I am hosting a Zoom meeting is to make sure that I have my Manage Participants button clicked and that I have the chat clicked here, so that way I can see everybody in the meeting and I can see everything that's going on. So basically, to create a breakout room, all you have to do is navigate to your menu, and if it's not showing up here, then it's probably in the More section right here. So you click on More and you click on Breakout Rooms, and here it'll ask you, it knows how many participants are there, and it'll suggest, you know, a room number. And you can definitely change the number of rooms that you'd like. You can manually put that in here, and it'll tell you how many participants will be divided into those rooms that you select. You can either divide participants automatically or manually if you have to. So today we have 4 other participants, and we're going to divide them manually. So it's going to be 2 participants per room, and then you just click this Create Breakout Rooms button here. And so it'll show you the 2 rooms, and then you click the Assign button, and it'll give you your list of participants. So we'll put Daria and Nadine in room 1, and then Janae and Gethsemane in room 2. And so once you hit Open All Rooms, your participants will receive a pop-up message saying, you know, there's a breakout room that was created, please click here to join. So they actually have to join the meetings manually. So I'm going to open all the rooms here, and hopefully everybody will go inside. And you'll see them disappearing into their rooms. Okay, great. So now they're all in their rooms. We don't know what they're doing or what they're talking about. If you are recording, you're only going to record what you're seeing here, so you can't record what's happening in the breakout rooms. And then you can individually, as the host, go inside and join each of the breakout rooms that you have. So let's join breakout room 1. Okay, and now we're in breakout room 1.
Hello.
So here we are. And now if you want to leave the breakout room, you've addressed whatever you want to address, you can leave the breakout room just by clicking this button right here. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Bye.
And so you'll return to the main session and you'll be here by yourself. If you need to access the breakout rooms again, you just hit this breakout room button and you'll be shown the rooms again over here. And then we can join breakout room 2.
Was she furloughed?
And now we're in breakout room 2.
Hello.
And so, yeah, you can sort of just jump around and be in the different rooms and see what's going on. Participants also have the option to ask for help. Gethsemane, do you have that button where
Yes.
you can ask for help? Okay, so I'll leave, and then can you hit that button once I'm gone? Thank you. So I'll show you that function. Again, you just click the Leave Breakout Room button here, and I'll be gone. So now that I'm back in the main session, see if somebody needs help, they can click this Ask for Help button that they have on their screen, and you'll receive a message here in the main room, and you can join that particular breakout room. It already knows which one. You can join it to help out that other person, and now you can be here and see whoever needs help. Okay, so now we'll just go back to, I'll go back to the main room, I'll leave the breakout room, and then I'll invite everyone back to the main room.
Okay, thank you.
So now I'm back in the main room, and I think we're just about done with breakout rooms. So what you do is you close all rooms, and the participants are given 60 seconds to either come back on their own, or the rooms will close automatically after those 60 seconds are up.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Okay, I think we're just waiting for Janae. There we go. All right, great. And so that's pretty much a basic overview of how to make breakout rooms. There are some other features that are more complicated, but if you have those down, then you should be all set. So from here, you can just end the meeting, and that'll be it. Hello, this is me back live. Let me just quickly show you how to move people around. That video is shorter. I just forgot to do it in the main video, and so we filmed another one. So I'll just quickly show you guys how to do that too, and then I will answer any questions. So. Now I'll show you how to move somebody around breakout rooms in case you accidentally put somebody in the wrong room or they wound up in the wrong room or for whatever reason. So again, you go to your breakout rooms button. Here we have the rooms that were already created, so I'll just reopen these again. And people are going into their rooms. Okay, and then let's say by accident that we put Nadine in the wrong room. You can just hover over her name here, click move to, and it'll give you the option. If you had more breakout rooms, it would list the other ones that are there, 3, 4, 5. But for now, we only have 2, so we're going to move her to breakout room 2. And she's going to get some kind of indicator, right? And now she's in breakout room 2. And if we want to move her back, then we just click move to again, and we click breakout room 1, and we'll put her back into breakout room 1. And now she's back in breakout room 1. So it's very easy to move people around. They just have to accept the message when they receive it, and you can, make sure that everybody is in the proper room. So now we'll just go ahead and close all the rooms. Great. Now everybody is back, and that is how you move people around in breakout rooms. Okay, and we're back to real life. So how did that go? Do people have questions, comments?
Yeah, there were a couple questions that came up in the chat room for you. Let me try to scroll up here and make sure. If I miss any as I'm going, hold me accountable in the chat room. One of the things that we had here was about regarding the waiting room and having to bring people into the room. I think Lori answered the question. We just want to double check. Okay. If the session has begun and people are out in breakout rooms and somebody joins, are you going to have to continue to manually put them into the breakout room?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Next question. There are some questions that are coming up about connectivity. I think what we'll do is put a hold on those till a little bit later, because there are some recommendations we can make about bandwidth that should help in some situations, but sometimes there's not a whole lot we can do. But what we will do is troubleshoot with folks a little bit about that. So let's circle back around to the connectivity questions. There was another asking about a time limit holding a meeting or a group. Is there any limit to the amount of time you can spend in a Zoom room? And if so, can you change that?
If you have a basic free account, you can only talk to people for 40 minutes. If you have a pro account or anything beyond a basic account that you pay for, it's unlimited. So only for the free accounts, they limit you to 40 minutes, unless you're talking to just one other person, in which case you can talk for as long as you'd like. But if you have more than one person that you're talking to, the limit is 40 minutes.
Great. So this would be a wonderful time for an AETC break commercial, and let you know that if any of you are facing challenges with your Zoom account because you only have the basic and you would like to upgrade to a better version, please let the AETC know. During the COVID-19 outbreak, there's a lot that we can do to help connect you in a new way. That's part of our role at the AETC, and we're more than happy to do it. So if you want to hold meetings and you're getting limited by time, please reach out to us. We can help get you an account that's going to allow you to provide the services in the way that you want to provide them. Commercial break over. We'll return to questions now. Another question, can only the meeting host create breakout rooms?
Yes.
And what if I give the host power to someone in the meeting? Can they then do it as well, or does it have to be the account owner?
I believe it has to be the person who started the meeting, but don't quote me. Actually, we can test this out right now, Adam, if you'd like. is the beauty of technology.
Yeah, I think we didn't create the breakout rooms for this.
Oh wait, I'm
meeting.
not the host of this meeting, so.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we will get back to you with that question as soon as we have the time to test it out.
I'm
Greg,
pretty
if you
sure,
could
yeah.
write that down and we'll make sure that we follow up with it.
I'm fairly certain that it has to be the person who created the meeting to begin with, even if you transfer host privileges, but yeah, we'll double check.
Yeah, we will find out. Question, oh, and this was, and I think Lori put a response here too, but I'd like to get it to make sure everybody, even folks on the phone, can hear this. So if I join, let's say Zoom, and so I joined by computer, but I dialed in with my phone, and I don't necessarily have my phone tethered to my computer because I didn't join that way, and I get moved to a breakout room, do I have to move the person and their phone?
So you're saying if that person called in but didn't connect their audio?
Correct.
Yeah, then they're technically like in two different places. So yeah, you'd have to move both or one. I don't know how useful a breakout room would be for folk. I mean, yeah, I guess it could work if it's just with audio. But yeah, you'd have to move both of them if you like. If they're joining by video but calling in on a phone, you'd have to move both. You'll see them as two different people, or
Okay.
their name will appear twice. You know, however they log in will appear twice. So.
And let me just clarify that. So if people sign in, like I always dial in using a phone, I don't go through my computer audio. When I use my participant ID, it connects the two. So I'm one person and you don't see me video and then a separate line for me coming in.
Mm-hmm.
But if I joined and I did not tie that participant ID, then you see two different things, and it's like two different people.
Yeah.
And if you get in that situation and one person ends up in one breakout room and their phone number lands in another one, all you have to do is move one of them and they're connected. It's really easy to do. It's just being aware of it.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I think this speaks a lot to helping folks, if it's their first time using Zoom, to really think about the instructions you send out to people around how they connect their audio and what that means, especially if you're going to do something like a breakout room, right? It's not as important if it's one big room, but if you're planning on doing that, you might want to think through the logistics of getting folks ready for that. We've done it for some of our bigger meetings that we did with CQII, and it was very successful. Folks were able to do it. It's just a lot of thinking ahead, and you need some partners to help you sort of manage everything as well.
And I have some, next up will be some instructions that you can send out to people before they join. So once we finish this round of questions, I'll show you what I send out to people normally.
Great. So if a person is only joining via phone, do they still have all of these settings that you're talking about, being able to ask questions and things if it's just audio and not through the app?
Right, that's what I was going to say. I guess it depends. So if you join by phone, but you're joining on the Zoom app, then you should have all the same functions. It looks different, and so you have to sort of swipe through to find what you're looking for. So if you're going to be using the app, then I would encourage you to practice with it before you're using it to join meetings. I do not, under any circumstances, recommend that you host meetings from your phone. You should always be doing that from a computer because it's a hot mess if you try to do it on your phone. If they just call in, then I think their options are pretty limited. If they're just dialing in on the phone and they're not connecting in any way, like through the Zoom platform, either on video or on their an app on their phone, I think they would just be able to hear what's going on, and that's it.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Just making one comment about that. If you're in the role of facilitator, I think it's really helpful to know how many people are joining by the phone and they don't have the visual to see, because how you talk through stuff, and now we're on, and you have to send out, say, slides separately if they're not able to see stuff or they're not able to see the chat. It's important to still bring them into the discussion and say, hey, we just had a chat question that talks about this, similar to what Adam is doing for those who can't see it. So it's another kind of step that as facilitators you need to be aware of and look out for.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Lori. So Mariana, that hits us on the questions for right now. So I think if you want to go ahead and move to the next section. And again, if people have questions as they pop up, please continue to put them in the chat room. If I missed your question for some reason, please feel free to put it back in the chat room and say mean things about it.
Okay, so one of the things that I like to do before I start a Zoom meeting where I might know that people are unfamiliar with the platform, or they've never really used Zoom or video conferencing before, is I like to tell them sort of what they're in store for. And for meeting participants, it's not a ton of information, but they should be aware of what's going on. So I send them these instructions, and it looks a little something like this. So normally when they launch Zoom, if they've never used it before, they'll need to download it. They'll see something that looks like this. For PCs, I have these instructions are for Mac. For PCs, they're almost the same. So they should be able to follow along regardless. So they'll see something that looks like this. They'll need to download it. If it doesn't start downloading automatically, Zoom provides a link that they can click to download the app, like so. And then once they're ready to join, they just have to click join a meeting when they open the app. They should not be clicking sign in because they won't have an account, more likely than not. The cool thing about Zoom is you don't need an account to join a meeting. You just need the software. So they just click join a meeting. Then they enter however they'd like, and they click join. And so that's all that I like to send people in advance of a meeting, just so that they know sort of what to expect if they've never downloaded the platform before. And then once everybody's already in the meeting, if there's time, I like to go through and introduce what they're looking at potentially. And so I tell them how to join. Again, we encourage people to join by their computer audio if possible. If not, you see there's an option there to call in. And so they can just use the phone call option. If they're going to be using Zoom a lot, before they select join audio conference by computer, they can click that little button on the bottom that says automatically join audio by computer, and then they never have to worry about that again. It won't pop up anymore. It'll just automatically do it for them. So that's kind of nice. They don't have to think about that for the future if they just select that option at the beginning. And then again, we always encourage people to turn their video on. So it's at the bottom of your screen if you haven't already turned it on. If you want to turn it on right now, you can. You just click that little start video button. And moving forward, whenever you see a little red slash through those icons, it means it's turned off. But if you don't see the red slash, it means it's turned on. So it's the same for the audio icon to the left of that. If you're muted, you'll see a red slash through that microphone. And if you're not, then you won't. And then I show them this. We usually ask people to mute their microphones so that we don't get a lot of background noise from people while somebody is presenting. And the way that they can do that is just by clicking that little mute button. The host of a meeting can mute people as they would like as well, and so can co-hosts. But people, of course, always have the option to unmute themselves. We're not like all-powerful authoritarian people. But if you know you're just gonna have a presenter and you want people to sort of keep their microphones off for a little while until we're ready for questions, then we always tell people to mute themselves. This is just some additional settings for audio and video if you want more. Usually if you're connecting your audio and your video, just make sure that you have the built-in options selected. Those are the ones that are already built into your computer, so that should be the easiest. You have two different views. This might be helpful for people right now as well. Gallery view, it makes everybody the same size, and speaker view only highlights the person talking at any given moment. What you see in the top right-hand corner of your screen is what will be shown if you click that button. So in this image right here, I'm currently in speaker view, but if I click that gallery view button, it'll take me to gallery view. So I know that that could be kind of confusing. It's not showing you what you're in at the moment. It's showing you what you'll be switching to if you click that button. The other thing that people can do, they can see who else is in the meeting if they just click the participants button. It was also in that video that I showed you. That'll just show you a list of everybody else who's in your meeting. And so you can click that if you'd like. You can also raise your hand in meetings. All that does is it like alerts the host that somebody has a question without actually interrupting the person who's talking, which is kind of nice. Sometimes we use it, sometimes we don't, but it's there if you would like to use it. Again, there's a chat feature, which I'm sure you all have noticed. If you click that at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the little chat box pop up, like so. You could either ask questions publicly or send them to a specific person privately by selecting that person in the chat drop down. You can also share your screen. The great thing about Zoom is that you don't have to have special privileges to share your screen. Anybody can share their screen. So right now, I am not the host of this meeting, but I am sharing my screen. So it's kind of nice. You don't have to, worry about giving somebody special like presenter privileges or something. Nobody can like interrupt and share over somebody if somebody's already sharing their screen. I think they get a message saying like, you can't share your screen right now because someone else is already sharing. The host does have the option to only allow themselves to share. So it would take away the option for everybody else to share their screen, and we don't do that. But if for whatever reason you only want to be the only one who can share your screen, you can change that setting in Zoom. The way that you share your screen, you just hit that little green share button, and then you get a list of options that pop up for what to share. You can either share your entire desktop, which I caution people because sometimes they share their whole desktop and they don't realize that they have something pulled up that maybe they don't want others seeing. So just make sure that you don't have anything pulled up there that isn't relevant to the meeting. But if that's easier for you, if you're going to be moving from like one program to another, it might be easier to share your desktop, and that way you don't have to worry about stopping and starting again. But if you're just going to be sharing one program, you can select that particular program that you're going to be sharing. In this example here, I'm pulling up a Microsoft Word document, so I can only share that one Microsoft Word document, and it won't show participants anything else on my screen. You do have to have it pulled up already, so if it's minimized, for example, on your screen, it won't show up in this list. So just make sure that it's not minimized and it's already pulled up so that Zoom knows, what the options are for you to be sharing. So in this case, I'm going to select this Microsoft Word document. You select it, it shows up in green, and then you hit share, and then it looks something like this. You'll always see a little green, I don't know if you can see it in this picture, but there's a little green outline around whatever you're sharing at that moment. So you always know what other people are seeing. If I were sharing my entire screen in this example, then the green line would be around my entire computer screen. But in this case, it's only around Microsoft Word because that's what I selected to share. To stop share, you just hover over the top of your screen and you'll see the option. There's a little red button that says stop share, and then you hit that and it stops sharing your screen. And that's it. And so that's what I like to share with participants at the start of a meeting if need be. Okay, I'm going to pause before I move on. Any questions? I know some people always have trouble with screen sharing and whatnot, so let's see.
There were a couple of comments that I wanted to pull out and make sure folks heard. One, we actually had a pop-up network for best practices yesterday for BHIP, and one of the participants there shared with us a little trick we learned, which was holding down the space bar to unmute yourself, and then you lift the space bar back up and you're remuted so that you don't have to go in and unmute and mute. So that was a little trick that we had learned. Another one that Greg reminded folks of, and we just want to kind of contextualize this for you, just to enforce even more the importance of really considering whether you want to share your whole screen. Remember that sometimes your windows may have little pop-up notices, so your Outlook, so as you're getting emails or notifications, those things will pop up there. So think if you're working with staff, they may see emails popping up that might have to do with them, right? Because it might be in the subject line. So think carefully about what you're sharing, because people might just see their name and make assumptions about things, even if it's some benign task that has nothing to do with it, right? So just be really conscious of what people can see. Another question from Jerry, are you sharing the PowerPoint with us? Can we put this out, Mariana?
Sure, yeah, I can send this out to people.
Cool.
No
We will put this up after the event. We'll make sure everybody who registered will send this out, and we'll also be sure that we put it up on our Basecamp for those of you who are part of BHIP. If anybody else didn't register for this, but you would like a copy of it, we need you to email Greg. Greg, if you want to put your email address in the chat room here so that we could do it. Great. Last question. Oh, and Lori had a recommendation of, could you show the functionality of the file function?
Oh,
And the save chat function.
sorry?
The file sharing
function.
function.
And
The save chat function.
I believe the chat, you know what? I can't actually, this is kind of the tricky thing about Zoom. I can't like show you my controls while I'm in a Zoom meeting, even if I share my whole screen. But
would this be something we could follow up with some screenshots post? And,
yeah,
and just sort of answer those questions that way?
Yeah, I can either take screenshots or I can film another screen grab and show it to you. In terms of file transfer, that is something that you have to turn on in your settings, in those like overall settings that I showed you. Otherwise, that won't be an option for you in meetings. So just make sure you have it turned on. The other thing quickly with changing settings, if you change something for your overall settings, it will only apply to new meetings that are scheduled after that point. So if you already have meetings scheduled that haven't happened yet and you change your settings overall in Zoom, they won't apply to those meetings that you already have scheduled. So just know that. Does that make sense to people? Because I know it sounds kind of confusing.
I'm seeing some yeses, some head shaking. Yeah, thumbs up. We got it.
Yeah. But I can definitely show like the file sharing feature and saving the chat. I think there's a setting where you can save the chat automatically for all your meetings.
That's what we do.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about it. That's what we have too. But otherwise, I think I'm actually just going to pull up my chat right now.
Yeah. The other thing I would say while you're pulling that up about the save chat function that's really important, if you're the host and you're the one saving the chat, if you've had private chats with people during the course of the Zoom meeting and you're the one saving it, your saved file is going to have those private conversations in it. So if you're thinking about using that for documentation or there's some other form, don't just cut and paste. You know, you need to go back and look and make sure that you haven't said anything that might be PHI for any reason if you're using the HIPAA compliant Zoom. Just be really conscious, as well as with the file sharing, because once you've shared that file, it's out in that Zoom room. So really make sure people are thinking about privacy controls, confidentiality, really thinking about who you're sharing something with, because it's so much easier to do it digitally that we sometimes forget to put the same rules in place, even though we don't have a piece of paper in our hand.
Yeah, there should be a function for you guys, like there should be 3 little dots somewhere in your chat box, and you can try to save the chat right now if you want. But again, otherwise, if you change your settings, then it can automatically do that for you so that you don't have to do it for every single meeting if you forget, just in case. And what happens in that case is every time you end the meeting, it automatically generates a file. And the same thing happens if you're recording a meeting. So if you're recording a meeting to your computer, once you end the meeting, Zoom will ask you like, okay, we're going to generate a file. Where do you want it saved? And you can select where you want it saved, and it'll just put the MP4 file right in that folder. So yes.
Cool, thanks. And there was another thing that I want to point out to you from the chat room. Rob had a great question about, like, we all see the record button on our screen, and the concern, like, can somebody just push the button and like, screen grab me and make me go viral dressed as a potato? Like, can that happen here?
The answer is no. If you try to hit that button, it'll give you a message saying like, the host needs to give you permission to record this meeting. So you can attempt to hit that button, but unless you have permission from the host, you shouldn't be able to record.
So supervisors, you should feel fine putting on the potato filter in your meetings. It hopefully will only be a single shot and not an ongoing video.
Yeah.
Great. So I think that wraps up the questions that we had for this cycle. So we've got about 10 minutes left, Mary.
Okay, I'll try to zoom through. I think we're almost done. So I just want to make sure, this is like just a tip, it's come up in the past. If you have somebody who's going to be presenting something, they should not be in the same room as you are, because you're going to start hearing like lots of feedback and crazy noise, and it's awful. Sometimes just people who are presenting and aren't familiar with Zoom get scared, and so they're like, can you stay here with me? But you should not be in the same room as the person who's talking, because if you have two computers connected in the same room, it's going to be a hot mess. So just make sure you're always in separate rooms if you're the host and the presenter is, for whatever reason, like in your office or something. And then just make sure you know your role. Make sure that people know, what they're supposed to be responsible for. If you're the host, really, you should just be sort of introducing the meeting topic, giving a brief overview of the technology if people aren't familiar. The co-host is like the main tech behind the scenes person. They should be muting people. They should be monitoring the chat and like resolving anything that if it comes up, like if people can't connect their audio or video or whatever, they can direct those questions to the co-host and they can sort of figure that out while the meeting is going on so that nothing is interrupted. And then if you're the presenter, really all you should be able to do is share your screen successfully and make sure your audio and video are working. There's probably more here, but I feel like these are like basic role divisions that people should be aware of. So here's when we talk about privacy and Zoom bombing and crazy things that have been going on. Honestly, this is like the first time I have ever even heard about this, and I think it's crazy, like who would want to hack a Zoom meeting, but apparently it's happening. So what Zoom bombing is people hijacking Zoom meetings and then they're just like showing really offensive content. I don't know why anybody would want to do this, but it is happening. So if that happens, basically what people should do is end the meeting immediately, just close it so that that person, can't do what they want to do. And then just send a follow-up email to everybody to reschedule. Things you can do to help prevent that, you should be setting passwords for all your Zoom meetings. This is something that you can change in your settings so that every single meeting you schedule will require a password. The cool thing about Zoom is that if you do this, if you select these and turn these settings on, it will generate a password for you automatically. It'll just be like 6 numbers or something, and you can share that with people. Or you can change it and make it whatever you want. If you do change it, I highly recommend that you put in like symbols and numbers and capital, lowercase, a mix of those things so that it's not just like meeting. Make it creative so it's difficult for hackers to figure out what it is. So you can turn this on. I highly recommend it and for all your meetings moving forward. This thing is very important. So when you turn on passwords for your meetings, you want to make sure that this function here in particular is turned off. So for some reason, Zoom has this thing, I think they think it's easier for people, but it actually defeats the whole purpose of having a password, where they have this function where the password is embedded in the join URL. And so that way people just like click the join URL and they don't have to worry about the password. But that sort of defeats the whole purpose of having a password, because then anybody can get that join URL and join, and hence the hacking. So just make sure that this setting here where it says embed password in meeting link for one-click join is turned off. And that way it'll prompt people to enter the password every time they want to join the meeting. This took a little figuring out on our end because I was like, why am I not being asked to enter the password? It was very strange. So.
Yeah. And I would add too, for those of you who are thinking about maybe using Zoom as a way to connect with your community, some of the hypotheses about how these Zoom links got out there in the ether was people were posting their Zoom links with their meeting IDs and numbers to just join, and none of the meetings were protected. So it was on Facebook and anybody could just jump in. So it's really important to think about how you're notifying people of your meeting, how they're going to get in. I'll tell you, at the AETC, we actually make you register through a different system in order to get the link now, so that there's some check that we have about who's coming in and out of our meetings. It's not ideal because you got to go through 2 systems, but you just want to be thinking about, maybe you can't just post on Facebook, join us on this Zoom link. It might be fine, but it's out there in the ether. It might not be fine either. So you might have to do some creative thinking about how you get the information out to the community.
Yeah.
Real quick, Mariana, too, there was a question here that kind of hits on this, but it was also a little bit from earlier. Can somebody, like if I wanted to, I can't internally record the Zoom screen, but could I like take a snapshot using the snipping tool or some other feature on my PC and like take a screen grab of it?
Yes. Yeah, because that's technically separate from Zoom. That like screenshot feature is just a feature on your computer. So yeah, you could
It would be like,
theoretically do that, yes.
so it'd be like thinking about your computers in your office, right? In theory, you could do that at any computer anybody works at. So it's just important to think about who's on the meeting and who's able to view the data or information that you're putting up. And if it's private health information, we need to talk to you maybe about the HIPAA compliant platform if you don't have that, so we can figure out what's going on. Or if it's a community thing, you know, you want to be aware of that too, right? Who's seeing this and what are you putting up?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's pretty much it. This is the main thing that I want to get across to people. I think a lot of people get kind of intimidated and overwhelmed with new technology, which is totally understandable because it's new and scary. But Zoom is actually very user-friendly, and the more you use it and the more you explore it, the easier it gets. The good thing about these Zoom meetings is that most people expect something to go terribly wrong at some point. So if it does, I think people have been very forgiving. So if you're learning and just starting out, you know, just practice as much as humanly possible, and it'll definitely get easier the more you use it. That's pretty much it for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mariana. We really appreciate this. This has been really fantastic. And for those folks there, there were some questions we had. I know we got 3 minutes left, so I want to be sure that we address these. There were a couple questions about bandwidth, right? People were getting grainy pictures, things weren't working. A couple of things to think about. One, are there other people using the Wi-Fi in the home at the time? Can you reduce bandwidth? This includes streaming television, streaming music, anything the kids might be looking at. That's all going to take your bandwidth because the internet was built for us to download things, not as much for us to be uploading video like this. Mariana, did you have something?
Video games is a huge one. If you or someone in your apartment or house is playing video games, that takes up like a crazy amount of bandwidth. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Other tricks you can do too, if you can also turn off your video camera, that will reduce your bandwidth a little bit. Also think about the other things you have going on in the background of your computer. Are you simultaneously downloading music, or are you downloading a video that you want to watch on your iPad or something? You want all of these things are going to affect your bandwidth. The other thing is the clarity of your photos sometimes is going to be dependent on the camera that you have with your system, right? So some people look a little different because of the technology that they might be using. But if you find that your camera is freezing, right, and it's not just a grainy quality, but that it like stops or that the whole program's not working, that's not an issue of quality of the video. That's an issue with the bandwidth itself. So you want to be sure to be thinking about those things. If for some reason you find that you've done everything that we've talked about and it still is weird, or you think that you're getting like a subpar outcome from this, please reach out to us. We may be able to drop in and kind of troubleshoot something, or at least affirm that, yeah, this is an unfixable problem versus something that might just be in the settings or something that might be associated with the computer. We don't know everything, but we're willing to try if folks run into barriers there. So again, thank you, Mariana. Reminder to everyone, much gratitude for all you're doing. Reach out to us if there's anything we can do to support you in this. We'll continue to try to bring you all additional webinars and information. If there's anything out there you want to learn about that you haven't heard, or that you're seeing you're doing a lot of, please, please, please email Greg, myself, anyone from the AETC, any of your PMOs. They know how to reach out to us if you're part of the New Jersey Ryan White program. Please, please, please let us know, because we've got a lot of wind right now in our programs to help us do some of this stuff. They want us out there helping with COVID. So please reach out. Don't sit there and try to scratch your head alone. All of us can do this better together, I think. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you guys all real soon.